I want to introduce you to Vivek Ramaswamy, a self-made billionaire via biotech who has started a new asset management company called Strive. Here he is, he's talking to Dr. Jordan Peterson, our favorite, about ESG, and he will describe what it is for you and declare it a huge threat to the world. And I'll be back shortly to discuss it with you guys.
Because the definition keeps changing even by its biggest proponents. So I think it's important we flash freeze it so we can talk about it, whether or not we agree. Yeah, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance factors influencing the allocation of capital in global capital markets. Okay, that's a mouthful. Well, that's a close cousin of a broader movement called stakeholder capitalism, which refers to the basic idea that businesses should not just focus on selling products and services for a profit, but that they should also advance other social agendas and societal interests. That sounds benign enough. Now, this was designed as a contrast to the worldview advanced by Milton Friedman in the 1970s and 1980s, where he said, no, the right purpose of a business is exclusively to focus on selling products and services for profit to maximize value for shareholders. And the thing that Milton Friedman worried about was that if companies didn't do that, they'd be less effective at making widgets and the size of the economy would shrink and everyone would lose out. As you know, we can get into this, but my critique of this trend is actually quite different than Milton Friedman's. My main concern is not just that it threatens the effectiveness of American capitalism or the effectiveness of corporations, though I believe all that's true. My bigger concern is that the ESG movement and this broader philosophy of stakeholder capitalism actually threatens democracy, because democracy is a system built on the idea that everyone's voice and vote counts equally on questions ranging from climate change to addressing racial injustice. Whatever the right answers may be, those are the political questions that a democracy settles through free speech and open debate in the public square. And it's my view that what the ESG movement demands and what the stakeholder capitalist movement demands is that actually we take those questions out of the political process and settle them through the use of capital force in boardrooms across America and across the West more broadly. And I think that's a betrayal of the democratic system that we built in 1776 in this side of the ocean. But even more broadly, a betrayal of a system of self-governance of free agents in a free society.
He calls it a threat to democracy because firms like BlackRock have amassed the voting rights for the shareholders that they are managing money for. It's really not that dissimilar to your representative in Congress who is elected to serve and vote for you. The difference here is that most investors have zero clue as to what's going on or even consider for a moment who actually they do own those votes. Also, there is a maximum number of people that a congressional delegate can represent because it is based on percentage of population, and it is only one vote amongst many. But create a company like BlackRock, the more money that you have under management, the more voting rights you have when it comes to the corporate vote, as investors passively allow the funds to vote for them. That means that somebody like Larry Fink, the founder of BlackRock, who's already wealthy, magnifies his vote literally over 10,000 times via the capital of other people. If he wants to vote with his own money in the corporate boardroom for what he thinks is best, that's fine. But he has centralized power via the votes of others. And if he decides to push something like ESG, which he has for a variety of complex reasons that we're going to discuss in future videos on this subject with Vivek also. So please thumb up this video and subscribe, hit the all notification bell so you can tune in and go down this rabbit hole with me. He is leveraging the votes of many, many shareholders who, if they knew what he was actually voting for, would likely disagree with him. But they don't. They have zero knowledge of what happens in the backroom corporate board, and thus ESG gets pushed unwittingly upon the United States and the rest of the world without popular support, and that's key, without being decided at the democratic ballot box. That's how ESG makes its way into the world. It's why Sri Lanka collapsed, chasing this mythical ESG score and eliminating most of their inorganic fertilizers, if not all of them, and watching their crop yields plummet to the point where they cannot feed their population, much less export some of their food products to the rest of the world. It's why Canada farmers have been ordered to cut back in the same manner by Trudeau, and why the Dutch farmers right now are protesting the same government mandates so vociferously. Larry Fink and others of his ilk are voting these policies in using your money without you, in all likelihood, being the least bit aware of it. So join me tomorrow and I'll show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes.